Hello, gentle viewer. Now, I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of things going on surrounding Ghost of Tsushima for PlayStation 4, and I did an initial release discussion video about that, and I'll link that up to the top right here. But basically, what's going on is there's a whole lot going on, and I'm going to go into it in really deep detail, just because there's basically things about potential review bombing of the game. Um, Kotaku saying that Western or Eastern critics love the game. Western critics showing that they dislike the game intensely for no good reason, and then the whole back and forth from woke Twitter about what's going on, and then also going to talk about the first week sales, and then of course we're going to lean into that most recent statement by the developer saying we love criticism, we think it helps. So there's going to be a lot going on today, so please stick around. I'm going to be jumping from topic to topic. Just want to do an overview of this whole situation and where we are to date because I haven't really gone into it too much and I've been seeing other videos talking about it. So let's start with Metacritic. Metacritic's given it an 83, which given a lot of the feedback I've seen about the game between how it's beautiful but also the open world gets a little boring and things like that, 83 is a good representation of the overall vitriol surrounding the game. Like generally speaking, how it rates. And 83 is a good score. It's not a bad score. Not everything has to be a masterpiece, and everything has to be a 90 something out of 100. So, but let's go into the user scores. We have user scores here, user reviews right now, and there's about 35, almost 3,600 positive, 100 mixed, and then just over 100 negative. So when I talk about review bombing, it's not so much that it's an overall like impactful thing, but just the fact that there are people that are coming in. The Last of Us Part Two fans are angry at this game, Ghost of Tsushima, for not getting for getting better treatment. They feel in the user reviews than they are. So they've been coming in and been dropping bombs, so to speak. For example, um, not English, of course, but they gave Ghost of Tsushima 0 out of 10, and they gave Last of Us Part 2 a 10. And these are their only two reviews, and they were done within a month of each other, like basically within 2 weeks. So Lithuanian, also the same deal. Ghost of Tsushima 0, very pale. Gameplay is alright, story is just not good. And then he says Last of Us Part 2 is a 10 for everything. Amazing story, amazing story. So not subjective at all. All right, and this Eternal Pudding. Also, 0 for Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, I'm browbeating this, of course. It's like Ellie, TLOU2. I wonder what their scores are going to be for these games. But, then there's someone that have viewed more than two games, but they're basically following that line of 0 for Ghost and then 10 for TLOU2. But no, we have people that are just basically negativing everything. But someone just swooped in on the 20th. Oh no, this is a month apart, June 20th and July 20th, giving them those zeros. And then, of course, we have things going the other way where people are just showing up to boost Ghost of Tsushima. And I think that's what's creating this really high positive score right now. It's not going to be everybody that's going to be doing that, but they've tried to do this. And I did a video about this specifically, I believe. I'll have to link it up in the top right if I am remembering correctly. But yeah, about how they've changed the status of changed the way that Metacritic scores these games. You can't just review it right away. You got to wait 36 hours before you can actually submit a user score because they want you to play the game before you submit a review, obviously. So, but yeah, so all that going down, and then Kotaku comes in and talks about how Ghost of Tsushima is being praised by Japanese critics, and these are like people that are in Japan working for Japanese review sites. So you've got the likes of Akiba Suken giving it good reviews. Um, let's see here. It talks about how the review ends by stating that Ghost of Tsushima's protagonist, Jin Sakai, isn't the typical samurai of foreign creation, but rather a real Japanese samurai. with a site using both English samurai and the words kanji to highlight this distinction. Interesting. And you got Dengeki, Dengeki Online also giving it good reviews. Japanese historical dramas have been thoroughly studied and brought to life in a world that is very close to how we picture his period of Japan in our minds, the site adds. It praises its story and its action. Engadget Japan also says says the game didn't have the type of odd or uncomfortable scenes or storylines that Japanese people typically experience in American-made movies. The story, the site adds, shows respect for the period, adding that the game itself was enjoyable and moving. The Famitsu was the big one. They, I believe this is the one that they gave it their highest score, which they don't normally do. They've only done it for two other games. Yeah, gave it a perfect score. This is only the third time a Western game has gotten a perfect score, with Ghost of Tsushima taking its place alongside Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, and Grand Theft Auto 5. So this is definitely being well received, and but some people aren't. Some places aren't receiving it well, and they directly compare it for no reason to Last of Us Part 2, even though they're not similar games at all. One's open world, one's not. One's about, well, they're both about a revenge, apparently, according to people that played Ghost of Tsushima. But here's the summary of his review, and something that this guy over at Digitally Downloaded cannot express enough, apparently. I cannot stress that enough. This game is fundamentally enjoyable. However, as much as I had issues with The Last of Us 2's narrative, it was an American story told by Americans, and it had a thematic and tonal resonance as such. It was consistent and uncompromised. Okay. Ghost of Tsushima, by contrast, is a wild misfire with every narrative element it attempts, and it boils down to this. Sucker Punch decided to do a historical epic inspired by Kurosawa and produced something that fails about the history and as a pistache of Kurosawa. There's a lot of people that are not white that work for Sucker Punch, so this is definitely somebody looking to start a fight about this, and just and obviously they're entitled to their opinion about the game. Of course, that's why they reviewed the game, but clearly he is taking a specific stand, and he might just be one of these Western critics that's standing with Whoop Twitter in this whole situation. So here we go with Ghost of Tsushima. All right, it's been received overwhelmingly positively by Japanese audiences since its release. Much of this may have Western critics seeking to spark discord around the game. And then it talks about the Kotaku article. But then, let's see here. Here's the tweet. Here's the tweet from Gene Park, who works for a specific magazine. There's going to be more critical discourse around Ghost of Tsushima, and this link will be used in bad faith, because that's possible when it's just game criticism, to defend the game against criticism. Asians will have different perspectives than Asian Americans. It's not complicated. And I guess what he's trying to say here is that people that are not Asian American don't have a say in an American made game or something. Um, but well, that would be the surface level. They do People do try to dig into the fact that, oh yeah, this is basically Japanese nationalists, now Japanese fascists enjoying this type of game because it reinforces their worldview, and so they go into it. And yeah, here it is right here. Literally anyone who criticizes this game is now going to have to deal with people pointing to this, like Japanese nationals' opinions on this bull roar, and invalidates our own. I'm so furious. So he's furious, and then in the next moment he's like so tired. It's like so many people have been dying for games to be taken more seriously, and the second that happens, they realize what that all entails. What all that entails. I'm so tired. Blah blah blah. And CC here says, "I'm so exhausted because Japanese nerdum media has had a problem with glorifying Japanese nationalism for like basically forever, and it's not like it's a secret that Japanese fascists exist. So basically saying that Japan is full of Yahtzees that are gonna like this game. It's like, but it's literally not this, because even here, and this guy, I actually replied to this guy, or I think I retweeted, but basically he says, talks about how white people go behind our backs to Asia and ask Asians in Asia what they think instead of actually asking us. No, they did ask you guys. They asked a bunch of guys that represent your culture here in America, in America, not here in America, but in America, and they're also allowed to have their own opinion about it. They're not. It's not going behind someone's back just because they don't bother to ask you, no matter what importance you assign to your little check mark. So yeah, lots of people upset, and then of course somebody pointed out, yeah, hey, this was not Japanese nationalist fantasy. This actually the Mongols did succeed in certain points of where they landed, and Tsushima was where they landed and killed thousands. Mainland Japan is not the same. Thousands of miles away, didn't happen there. So basically rewriting things to suit their own narrative, and so people are getting upset over that. So woke Twitter's mad, which isn't new. But let's move on from that and talk about how well the game is doing sales wise. It has topped the UK physical sales charts, which is a kind of like a guideline for between that and Japan itself. It's different charts that come out that talk about how physical sales are doing, how well they represent the overall digital sales for these games. So let's just dive right into it. And the action game didn't come close to matching last month's big PS4 release, The Last of Us Part 2, which it wouldn't have been able to. And so it's not surprising. However, its box launch sales were 7% higher than last year's new PS4 IP, Days Gone, which is a more comparable product, though Ghost of Tsushima did score better with critics. And their sales were 4 times bigger than the other new game on the charts, Paper Mario, Origami King for Nintendo Switch. The comedy adventure game still reached number 2, and its first week sales are bigger than the launch of the last two Paper Mario games combined. 2016, 2012. The Color Splash and Sticker Star were so poorly received, though. They weren't really treated as proper sequels, Paper Mario sequels, and that's why kind of the sales were down for that. And in fact, it says here the first week's sales narrowly beat 2007's Super Paper Mario, which I've played, making this new game the fastest selling Paper Mario so far. In addition, download sales were not included. Super Paper Mario was not available digitally, and therefore the Switch game is likely to have been comfortably bigger than its Wii predecessor. Makes sense, makes sense. So here's the actual charts. Only two new games are Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario, and they're topping the charts. And there's F1, 2020 Animal Crossing, Last was Part 5, Part 2, Part 5, Part. Oh my God, I just had some PTSD about that game. Oh no! But anyways, that is where the things are at, and part this guy keeps slipping because it's going to be dropping 50 to 80% of its sales week over week, I'm sure. So it's going to be getting all the way down pretty quick. It's going to fall off the charts in probably a few weeks, maybe a month. But yeah, so that's what's happening with the sales. It is being well received. It is being comfortably locked in as a favorite for gamers, even though there are, like I said, some criticisms of the game. It doesn't mean people aren't going to love the game. And that's being represented over here in the user score. But also, just as a endpoint here, because this video is getting long too, so I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna talk about how the creative director for Ghost of Tsushima says, "I love criticism. It's just gonna make us better." Says the team will look at it, tear it apart, and digest it when it comes to Ghost of Tsushima feedback from players and press. So let's see here. Jason Connell, Ghost of Tsushima's creative and art director, tells me that he has been eagerly awaiting feedback from the press and players alike, and he spent the last few days glued to the internet to follow the early reactions. I mean, for me, I look at what people are saying about the game and what people are enjoying about the game. I see there's a couple of threads on Twitter that are just like, here's all my photos from photo mode. It's cool. I mean, for a new IP that's developed the way we develop games, and also during a pandemic and all these other things, I'm really proud of what people seem to like they are loving about the game because these are the things that I love about the game. So it feels personal, it feels gratifying, and I'm sure our team feels the same way. I know our team was really rejoiced with it. Quote the early reaction, and then it talks about their own review of the game. McConnell tells me that the team is embracing the feedback, both the good and the bad. It is, after all, valuable information that the team looks to evolve the types of games it is building. These are criticisms about a game. I love criticism. It's just going to make us better, you know. We're going to look at it, tear it apart, and digest it. We've been talking about it. I think it's a healthy part of it. We put it out there that the world can judge it, but we're proudly owning it. We think Ghost of Tsushima is the best game we've ever made. So yeah, so there's Ghost of Tsushima's creative director saying we love hearing about the game, good and bad, so we can improve. Meanwhile, you have Neil Cuckman going around on Twitter, going around on other mediums, and basically shutting down people that criticize his game like a child, like because it's just the most amazing thing in the world, and people that judge it, no, they're just haters and they can go f themselves. That's his attitude towards the game, towards game critical response to his game, because he likes to compartmentalize and basically treat all that criticism as just from this small segment of trolls that have nothing to do with the actual playing of the game, which isn't correct at all. So, anyways, that's got you all caught up with Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima. And yeah, so if you like this type of, well, I won't call it long form, but it is longer than usual. But there's a lot of stuff to unpack, and I wanted to go through all of it all at once. So here's my video. Take it, like it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.